We now return to the well-loved games from the Sega Saturn, with a game you could describe as a gem? A jewel of the console, even. Astal. Definitely one of my favorite little Saturn titles, and one that was entirely exclusive to the console. Both developed and published by Sega, Astal is a 2D platformer that saw release first in Japan on April 28th of 1995, and later came to North America on September 27th of the same year. Unfortunately, Astal never did see release in Europe, so the EU missed out on quite the unique little game. The first thing you might notice about Astal is that the game's case has no side art for some reason. What's up with that? I kinda hate it because every other Saturn game I own has some nice side art, and as a result, this blank case just sticks out like a sore thumb among them. Another odd little note about this game is that it has a Mario sprite hidden in the game's files. So I guess if you're ever curious as to what Mario might look like in a Sega game, well, here you go. Astal's story is told through a fully animated opening cutscene, and you can actually find Astal's POV of these events if you open up the manual as well. The world of Cortalia was created by the goddess Antawas. She created the skies, the ground, seas, and everything out of jewels. Most importantly, she created two humans, Leda from a green gem, who was given the power to create life on the planet, and Astal from a red gem, who exists to protect Leda from any threat. Astal's cracked as hell too, being incredibly strong, having these massive hands and even massiver eyebrows. After creating all this stuff, Antawas decides to go nap somewhere, leaving Cortalia to Astal and Leda. Unfortunately, there existed a demon lord named Gerardo, who wouldn't look too out of place as a hentai villain of some kind. He wants to conquer Cortalia and shape it in his own image, so he creates a boy of his own, Geist, and sends that boy to kidnap Leda. Geist succeeds and he steals her at the bottom of the ocean. This kidnapping pisses off Astal, who goes on a rampage, tearing apart nearly every piece of the world to try to find her. He does, and in desperation, cracks open the bottom of the ocean. Holy shit, this kid is strong. Astal rescues Leda, but his little rampage awakens Antawas, who punches him by chaining him to the moon. She then repairs the planet, pimp smacks Gerardo to Loser Town, and goes back to sleep. All in one motion, I'm hoping. Unfortunately, Geist evades the goddess's wrath somehow and kidnaps Leda again, and her desperate cries spur Astal to bust his lunar chains and fly back down to Cortalia to whoop some ass. In the goddess's absence though, Cortalia is no longer a friendly place, somehow it being corrupted by Gerardo and his evil influence. Regardless, this doesn't frighten Astal, so he knuckles up and plans to free Leda once again. This is where the game proper now begins. Gameplay-wise, Astal is a pretty simple 2D platformer. As player 1, you'll control Astal, our surly little protagonist. Astal has some basic movement abilities. He can walk, he can run, and he can jump as well. To deal with his puny foes, Astal can hurl him over his shoulder like weak old garbage, crack him on the head with a vicious-looking double axe handle, which, honestly, I really love the sound of the contact. He can also ground pound, which stuns most foes for an easy follow-up kill, and he can draw in great breaths to literally blow away his weaker foes. I hope this blowing animation didn't inspire any inflation fetishes. Very early on in the game, Astal will run across some gold jewel goblins who are holding a bird captive. Astal smashes all these dorks and frees the bird, who takes an immediate liking to him, much to the boy's chagrin.
Get away from me, you stupid bird! Quit following me!
The bird begins to follow Astal at this point and becomes an absolutely integral part of the game. Gotta be honest, this bird is probably the best NPC partner I've ever had in a video game. Like, ever. With sufficient power, which is represented by this bar here, and is acquired from killing any one of these sparkly enemies, Astal can command the bird to do a screen clearing attack, or he can fetch food to restore your health as well. Now, admittedly, the food fetching is a toss-up, yeah, but at the worst, the bird will come back with nothing. But it can also retrieve this little Astal figure, which restores your entire health bar and gives you an additional life, too. I love this damn bird. He's the best NPC partner I've ever had. Alternatively, if you have a friend, they can grab a controller and play as the bird themselves. The bird has its own moveset of attacks and abilities, but the drawback is that the bird now has its own life bar, and the two of you share continues, which kinda complicates the game a bit. Honestly, it's easier to play this game solo. Thankfully, I'm a friendless loser, so I don't have to worry about anyone wanting to co-op old Saturn games with me. Speaking of making the game easier, or rather the opposite entirely, I found out after playing that the North American version of the game is far more difficult than the native Japanese version. In the Japanese version of Astal, you have 5 hit points instead of 3, and you have unlimited continues versus the North American version, which only gives you 1. The Japanese version also allows you to start with 9 lives as opposed to the 5 of the North American version. This is vengeance for the bombs, isn't it, Japan? I can't lie, the extra hits and unlimited continues would obviously be nice, since Astal isn't the easiest game in the world, not by a long shot. Truthfully though, it is a ramping difficulty, so you won't just get dumped into the deep end, and honestly every unique challenge in this game is actually pretty readable and easily dealt with once you learn the patterns of the game's various challenges. Shit, the game practically does hold your hand sometimes. Like in the fire level, for instance, Astal starts off blowing out one of the fire pigs, which lets you attack them freely. This lets you know that if something is on fire, you blow it out first, and then you can deal with it. This is basically the theme of the entire level as well. You can blow out the flame pillars, and you can blow away the fire dragons that pop up to attack you. So the game definitely does teach you stuff. With all the boring crap out of the way now, though, let's talk about the best part of Astal. It is fucking gorgeous. My god, what a beautiful and completely unique looking game. I honestly struggle to think of games that even have a similar style to this one. Every level is a complete visual treat, and every level has a very distinct theme to it. There's some pretty normal looking plains, lava levels, ice levels, deserts, and honestly every kind of level you could think of is here, and all of them are brightly colored and just plain gorgeous. My personal favorite level is definitely the Sea of Clouds. That's saying a lot too, since this is a sweaty try-hard platforming level, and I'm not good at those, nor do I typically like them. Somewhat more so here, since the moving platforms are absolutely nerve-wracking to jump across. Regardless, the aesthetics of this level are so beautiful that I could just play it all day. Creature design in this game is fantastically unique as well, from the humblest gem goblin, the piggish orc gems, these wacky eyeball bats. All of the flunkies look awesome. The only enemy I don't like is this weird gropey hand dude. He exists to steal your bird with his big ass grabby hand. The sound that plays when he's on screen too is genuinely anxiety inducing for me as well, right up there with the Sonic the Hedgehog drowning music. And look at this thing in the Plains of Destiny.
He's so ugly! I love him!
There's a handful of bosses in this game as well, which, fun fact, the AMV that plays near the start of this game actually gives you hints on how to defeat a few of them. Sidebar, this game has a handful of animated cutscenes that were done by TMS Entertainment, who you might know from their work on anime such as Lupin the Third, Detective Conan, D. Gray Man, and even Akira they did. Sega really brought the lumber for their animation here, Jesus. Sidebar over, let's get back to the bosses. They're all just as unique and amazing looking as the flunkies. This big eyeball matriarch, the forest fiend, the behemoth, which is the sweet looking lion ram monster thing. The fire dragon boss is pretty damn sweet too, my favorite for sure. Looks awesome in motion, and even embraces the blowing out mechanic that the level sets up for you early on. Even Geist and the final boss Gerardo, who's just a fat looking goblin pervert, are pretty cool too. All these levels and bosses in game are accompanied by some very pleasant music tracks too, which perfectly complement the stages. Once again, I'll reiterate it. If I use the tracks to back the video, the music in the game is good, and this one is no exception to that rule. Give the full OST a listen sometime. You won't regret it if you like good game music. To wrap the game up though, Astal battles his way through the corrupted lands of Quartalia, eventually coming face to face with Gerardo's servant, Geist. Trickaroo though, all the bosses that Astal has killed on his quest had their souls harvested by Geist, and said souls were used to resurrect and power up Gerardo once again. Geist does battle with Astal, intent to kill him for his master. Astal smacks the fuck out of that dork though. This leaves Gerardo very unpleased, so he berates Geist for being unable to kill a child, even though Geist is just a child himself, and despite the fact that Astal is strong enough to literally rip trees out by the roots, and has the strength to pick up and carry a massive rock. Rock he hurls miles away to plug up a volcano. Very normal child. I mean, look at his very normal eyebrows. Now true, Geist does have some powerful magics, but if Mashal's taught me anything is that muscles beat magic every time.
Bonk! How's that feel, wimp?
Gerardo eats up Geist and decides he's gonna be the one to deal with Astal. Fatty steals the bird and he tries to stomp Astal to death, declaring victory over the young boy. Somehow he doesn't notice that Astal's been holding him up the whole time he's been talking, and Astal shoves that fat prick off of him. Astal gets the bird back and the final fight begins. The fight for the future, as it were. The final boss battle begins, and I can't lie, it's a pretty intense fight. The only tip I'll give you for it though is if you want to avoid the frost dragons he sends your way, jump and do your double axe handle since it freezes you mid-air, which obviously lets you leap over the dragon easily. I think you can also blow the dragon, which stalls out its advance, letting you jump over it, but that requires much tighter timing to pull off. The bird can also take out the dragons, but she seemed to do that of her own volition. Once again, still the best NPC. Honestly, there's some other stuff in this game I didn't realize until my most recent playthrough. Like these knife pillars here, you can punch them and they'll stop for a bit. Wish I'd known that as a kid. You kill him by throwing trees his way, and you can even grab his big meaty hand and hurl him like the worm-handed sack of monkey shit he is. Astal smacks Gerardo's candy ass down, and the souls of all the bosses you killed escape from him like he's Shang Tsung, essentially. Which breaks the spell that was on your bird companion this whole time, who, as it turns out, was Leda, but polymorphed. Which does explain why the bird held so much affection for our red-haired hero. And Tawas is once again awoken from her slumber, but instead of being pissed off this time, she congratulates Astal for growing compassion, and that compassion allowed him to murder the Dark God. Hey, at least this time it isn't the power of friendship. And Tawas blesses them both now with the power of creation, and bounces permanently, ordering the two to make the world a happy place. And the game ends. Astal is one of my favorite little Sega Saturn games. I don't enjoy busting out the phrase hidden gem because, honestly, it's overused as hell these days, but in this case it's both appropriate and kind of a funny double entendre, so I'll use it. Astal has a fantastic art style, is incredibly bright and colorful, has very unique enemy designs, and some pretty decent gameplay to back it all up. Gameplay and levels that, while hard at times, aren't completely unreasonable to deal with. It actually depresses me to say that Astal has never been ported and to this day remains a Sega Saturn exclusive. Thankfully, emulation can allow you to experience this game without having to shell out $100+ for it. On top of maybe having to shell out money to grab a Saturn as well if you don't already have one, which obviously ain't cheap either. Give Astal a try if you're looking for a platformer to play. It's pretty good, no joke. Anywho, as always, dearest viewers, my name is HadesManticore, and this here channel is City State Manticore. I'll try not to slack with more Saturn content in the future. More content to come, of course. Feel free to leave a like and subscribe for more content, and I will see you all in the next one. Goodbye.